Welcome to the Underground, the Steel City Underground, a Pittsburgh Steelers podcast made by fans like you, for fans like you. Now, here's your host.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Steel City Underground podcast. No, you're not hearing things. I am your host, Joe Kuzma, and I have returned to the promised land, here to the Underground, the Steel City Underground. I'm trying to have a little bit of energy like Nathaniel Bodner had on the last episode. I mean, did you feel it? I mean, the kid just loves football. Loves himself, too, but nothing wrong with that, I kid, okay? Man, I've got something for you today. There's a lot of off-season let's just start making up stuff. I'm actually seeing websites, and we're guilty of it here too, but things get slow when you have to report on, hey, ESPN said this on your own website. Oh, geez, it drives me crazy, you know. But there's something else that really drives me crazy. What grinds my gears, for those of you who watch Family Guy, if you're a Family Guy, Peter Griffin type guy, what grinds your gears? What grinds my gears? I don't know. This could be a Joe's Pet Peeves segment, but let me start something first. I have Pittsburgh Penguins fever. It's that hockey season. It's the Eastern Conference Finals for those of you who follow things other than the Pittsburgh Steelers. You see a lot of Pittsburgh Steelers themselves, like Mike Tomlin and Ben Roethlisberger in the crowd there at PPG Paints Arena, which is very difficult to get used to saying. It just doesn't roll off the tongue. In fact, they had a survey about it. I'm not sure if some of you folks got that same survey that I received, but it was like, do you know what PPG even is? And I'm like, no. I guess you do. I mean, if you're kind of local, you have an idea, but Sherwin-Williams, those type of things. They own like all these different things. Anyways, the arena, kind of a hard name to say, but Steelers linked with the Penguins, and where I'm getting at with my pet peeve thing is walking out of the club level the other night, me and my cousin who always moans and bellyaches about Steelers football and is a lot of inspiration for why I even started Steel City Underground years ago, for those who may have visited that About page that Nate was talking about the other day and just checked out the whole little backstory to SCU here. And basically what it amounts to is that I had to have my soapbox or my pulpit of which to preach against the ill will and negative energy that is bestowed upon this franchise, because this franchise has not had a losing season since, I don't know, my dad used to say this thing, since Shep was a pup. I have no idea what that means, but it's been a very, very, very long time, practically since Heinz Field has been built. We're not used to, as a fan base, losing. I think we're a little spoiled, and I've said this before, I may say it again, but there's a lot of crying and things. I wrote this article the other day, and it was called The Steelers' Offseason Moves Arm Them with Weapons to Beat the Patriots. And people are making fun of me, and they're saying fire Todd Haley or whatever. So how does this link with this Penguins game the other night? My cousin, we're walking through the club level. We're walking out of the club level, believe it or not, in the main general concourse. And he goes, "That's Kevin Colbert." I said, "Get out of here." "No, it's not. No way." So we're walking behind this gentleman, and my cousin decides to, I'm not going to recommend doing what he did to get Kevin's attention. I'll leave that just loose lips sink ships, as they say. And I'm like, holy crap, it's Kevin Colbert. We shake his hand and said, "Nice draft." Then we said, "Hey man, long snapper, really?" No, we didn't say that. And if Kevin were ever to get wind of this and realize I didn't introduce myself as anybody of anything important, because I'm not. That's just not humble pie. It's just true in the grand scheme of things. This guy runs the Pittsburgh Steelers. He helps assemble the rosters. Very great honor to shake his hand and tell him that he had a great draft. Why would I criticize something like that? But yet, that's what fans do on the internet every single day. They even use Steel City Underground as a punching bag sometimes. Now, everyone's entitled to your opinion, and a lot of people, even if your opinion differs from mine, different strokes for different folks, that's totally cool. I respect it. But then there's like this other little bit of segment that's just like, everybody turns their heads and looks at them, even the people who disagree with me, and we look, and we're looking across the fence and saying, what are you thinking? You are insane with that type of thought. And these are the same people that say, fire Mike Tomlin, Kevin Colbert can't draft, the Todd Haley wouldn't know how to use any of this talent. Let me tell you something. before I get in, and this was some of the byproduct of this article, because most of my pet peeves or most of the questions raised from the AFC Championship game loss against the New England Patriots, and how the New England Patriots are this great model franchise. Mike Tomlin and company got to the dance. They were one step away from the big show that is the Super Bowl with guys, and this is nothing against Kobe Hamilton, because I thought Kobe steps up. But think about this just from a perspective of on paper, okay? Kobe Hamilton, Eli Rogers, who else? Jesse James, Alejandro Villanueva, Ramon Foster. The list goes on and on. On defense, it's very similar too. It's not like this team is assembled with nothing but first-round draft choices. It's a hodgepodge of journeyman veterans, guys who fought on practice squads to make a roster. Kobe Hamilton, Xavier Grimble. Jesse James was a fifth-round draft choice. A portion of the offensive line was entirely undrafted. They weren't even drafted into the National Football League. And so some of the questions that are raised out of this are, where's the number 2 wide receiver? Where's this? Where's that? Well, the number 2 wide receiver was Le'Veon Bell, and he got hurt, and he was sent packing out of the game. And this is what drives me crazy, is when I shake a gentleman's hand, and he was a gentleman, him and his wife. Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Kevin Colbert, by the way, for the photo op, which was very cool. And I said, thank you. And I say thank you because I don't live in misery like the Buffalo Bills fans. Sorry, Dell. Or Cleveland Browns fans. Apologize to my wife and some of my family for that one too, but they know it. That's why they hate the Steelers. That's why people hate New England. That's why we hate New England. So when I say the Steelers are arming themselves to do better and somebody says Mike Tomlin doesn't know what to do with the talent, or it's the other way around. Oh my goodness. Mike Tomlin, it's only because he has all this talent. Which is it? Are the guys like Kobe Hamilton? Nobody else wanted him. Now, I like Kobe Hamilton. Don't get me wrong. I hate using people as an example. They are human beings too. I feel bad using it in this type of context, but we know what we're getting at here. We're getting at Kobe was drafted by the Bengals and then went to, I don't know how many different teams he bounced around on. I know he was with the Panthers for a short spell, trying to stick to a roster, trying to make it, trying to play football for a living. And it's just, when somebody says, oh, all this talent, well, is it like all these other NFL teams don't know what to do with a Xavier Grimble, or all these other teams decided not to draft or take a shot on Alejandro Villanueva, or discover that maybe he should be a left tackle instead of maybe a tight end or a defensive end, or Roosevelt Nix converting into a fullback after going undrafted, was a defensive tackle from Kent State originally. That really irritates me. And I just wonder how many people, given the same situation, walking around PPG Paints Arena before the game starts, before they drop the puck for the Eastern Conference Finals, would have thanked Kevin Colbert to his face. And I was even thinking about this because it really wasn't publicized, but there was a college coach from a competing program of whose name we won't mention. Brian would know who it is right away. We would say up north. He was in the building for this hockey game as well. And I thought to myself, now one of my buddies saw him. He was on the phone or whatever. You couldn't mistake him. Okay, well, we'll leave it at that. I don't want to leak that out there because I checked on his Twitter account. He didn't publicize it, and I don't really know who he was there with or there to see or just to check out whatever, just to check out a game, or maybe he's a Penguins fan. I don't know, but that's his own private life, and he's entitled to that. Okay, so I'll leave it there, but I'll just say, let's just make it a hypothetical. Let's just say it was Bill Belichick. It's not. It's a college coach from a program I don't like. I would still shake that man's hand and tell him the good job that he did, because he's done an excellent job with this program. And I would tell him that he's done well. And it's just out of respect. That's the football community. I don't understand why some Steelers fans, should they be fans, are so brutal on this organization for the decisions and choices that they make. Because more often than not, they get it right than they get it wrong. And it's just kind of disappointing. I like to think of when I think of Pittsburgh Steelers, I think of that organization. I think of family. I think the players. I think coaches. I think personnel. Everybody to an equipment manager would tell you that. It feels like you're a part of something bigger. So let's you know what? Let's prop each other up. If you had a little brother or sister or big brother or sister and things aren't going so well in life with them, or it's just one small little thing in life because everything else has been going pretty well, but they're pretty beat up about it, would you twist the knife a little more? I think not. So that axe being grinded, especially for those fans, those people who want to criticize and be realists, with really the only reason they want to do that is because sometimes the negative things, sometimes what we call clickbait headlines, making things sensational, fake news if you're into politics. There's all kind of buzzwords there. I hate that P word. We'll keep that out of this show. But it's just like, just because you think you're being real, I think you're just bringing attention to yourself. Or I don't know. I don't know what some people think. They laugh at the idea that the Steelers are improving themselves for this upcoming season. Their off-season moves make them better. What was one of the things in the AFC Championship game that we said, everybody said, I think I even said, that the Steelers need to do in order to beat the Patriots? We're assuming that that's the hurdle you got to get over. It's a fair one to assume they played in the last 5 of them, the last 5 conference championships. So if you're going to be the other team in that conference championship, it's going to be the Steelers. It's going to be against the Patriots more than likely, just by trends. It would be awesome to see them lose to somebody else. But let's say, just for this argument, that Pittsburgh has to do their own dirty work and not rely on another team like the Houston Texans, who had Brock Osweiler last playoffs, to beat the New England Patriots. So the Steelers, what are these critiques? They play too much zone coverage. Well, is that because of the personnel that they had? Can you tell me that when they had Antoine Blake 2 seasons ago, that they could have played, Valentino Blake, changed his name. I always want to call him Vincenzo, but that's Vince Williams, kind of has a little moniker on Twitter sometimes, Vincenzo. Antoine Blake is going to play press coverage and not zone. What suits his strengths best? Well, I don't think really anything if you get a little tongue-in-cheek there. Like I said, I hate to be negative on players, but Bryce McCain, very similar. And these are guys, let's also rewind here. Brandon Boykin, even Cortez Allen for that matter. It's not like you had the same starters for 2, 3, 4 years here. These are plug-and-play guys that they're trying to work into this scheme that they have. I love to call it a 3-4, but they only use it a third of the time. That's why this whole corner, nickel corner or slot corner position thing is a hot button topic, with as many as 4 people are going to compete to start at that position right now. And that's part of these tools that you need. Get Ross Cockrell, a word I could say properly. Sorry, poking fun at my one friend who has trouble with saying Ross Cockrell. I won't mention who. You know who. So the Steelers get all of these guys now for the secondary. So I'm going to say 3 of the main 4 spots if you're at a base 3-4. That's 2 corners and 2 safeties. That's figured out. I'm even going to say the 4th is, even though it looks like Cockrell's only going to be here another year. And Cockrell, believe it or not, we've got some data on him that's going to be coming out a lot better than he gets credit for, okay? Artie Burns, a little rough around the edges when he first started as rookie. Totally came around as the season got deeper. You're going to have some seasoned veterans now. They got a year under their belt. All the butterflies are gone. Artie Burns, Sean Davis. 3 starting rookies if you include Javon Hargrave on that defense. And then the defense is going to reload. They're going to add Cam Hayward back into this, and we'll get to that in a second. But with the secondary, they go out and sign Cody Sensabaugh. They may have Senquez Golson back, but he hasn't played football in 2 years. You still have William Gay. All these guys. And then Cameron Sutton from Tennessee, 3rd-round draft pick. Brian Allen, Utah, 5th-round draft pick. there's going to be a lot of competition in camp. It's going to be exciting to see how these young guns pan out here. There's no guarantee for any of them, actually, to make this roster. I think 5 to 6 maybe. And we speculate about what Will Gay might be doing in his future. Maybe he could help provide some depth at safety where there's not so much depth. Could happen. His versatility would allow for maybe that roster spot because he could be there in case one of the corners gets hurt. But it's speculation. It's like one of those things where, hey, we tried this out a couple times last year. Now that everybody's seen it like once out of like hundreds of plays, it's a signed, sealed, delivered thing. It's not. But I'm getting to, they don't play enough man. They're working on this. They've been working on this. This has been a work in progress. They pick up other guys through off of trades or waivers or street free agents that are cut. That's Ross Cockrell, by the way. Bryce McCain, I believe, was a waiver. He was at least released and re-signed and then signed as a street free agent too. I'm trying to recall that. Antoine Blake, very similar situation. It's one of those camp casualty type things. And they've tried that. They tried trading for Brandon Boykin. That didn't work out. They draft and draft and draft and draft. That's where I saw it. There was somebody that made a comment somewhere on the interwebs about how Ben Roethlisberger really doesn't want to win. He would be advocating for more defense. Are you kidding? I mean, the Steelers, Kevin Colbert, Mike Tomlin, they have tried so many people at this spot, and they kind of had one of their guys with Keenan Lewis. They thought they had one with Cortez Allen. It doesn't always work out. It doesn't even work out in consecutive years. Somebody can have one good year and be gone. We've seen it happen so many times in so many positions in the NFL. So when you're talking about man versus zone, I truly believe the Steelers are looking to be as versatile as possible. And considering they need a lot of defensive backs in these sub packages, this is on its way, okay? Work in progress. But please don't say that they don't care about the secondary. Please don't say that they don't care about getting after the quarterback. For half a season, they were terrible at it. They could only play James Harrison half a game or so. You don't want to like just totally burn the tires off of that freight train. Trains don't have tires maybe, but maybe knock the wheels off of it. Bud Dupree comes back in. I think Bud Dupree is a full-time starter, by the way. I had speculated before what Arthur Motz's role is. He could be the odd man out if they think Anthony Chickillo is going to be pretty solid. All these positive things being said about T.J. Watt. He was brought in to be that heir apparent. He's brought in to get that mix of 25% to 50% of the snaps early on. Get after the quarterback. Keep James fresh. There's still Anthony Chickillo. He created some splash last year. They have Keon Adams, the 7th-round draft choice, who everyone, all these draft experts, oh, he's undersized, blah, blah, blah. Well, we heard that about Kelvin Beachum as an offensive tackle. That turned out pretty well. We heard that about Antonio Brown, a 6th-round draft choice. That turned out pretty well. So give it the benefit of the doubt. The Steelers, once again, double dip in the draft for a position of need. Is this another tool that can help beat the Patriots, get after Tom Brady? Of course it is. They're working on it, folks. And it also helps that they went out and secured somebody like Tyson Alu for depth on the defensive line. It's always been a concern the last few seasons about how many snaps Stephon Tuitt and Cam Hayward were playing, and Cam Hayward got hurt, and we found out what they had. And they had Johnny Maxey, and they had Latarius Walton. I thought LT Walton did so well. He's still around, of course, affordable rookie deals, 6th-round draft pick, that sort of deal, instead of Ricardo Matthews, who I thought wasn't too shabby. I mean, we're talking about relief and backup guys that are getting in there. And once again, this is another thing where, do we give the coaching staff credit for plugging and playing these? You lose like a defensive captain on your defensive line. He's a defensive end. Cam Hayward out for the season. You still make it to AFC Championship. Okay. Is there another receiver besides Antonio Brown? I know I've talked about this quite a bit. Brian has talked about this a lot. I think even Terry and I have done it on the WTF shows in the past. So, the Steelers need a number 2 wide receiver. Well, I think they've got like up to a number 9 wide receiver if they want, but I get it. Do you need somebody to take the heat off Antonio Brown? That's coming as long as Martavis Bryant stays straight and narrow. But look at Juju Smith-Schuster. Let's just say we don't know the circumstances with Bryant and if he'll be straight as an arrow. You know what? He's getting an extra chance from me. I'm a believer, having seen all the videos and things that he's posted. It really looks like he wants to prove everybody wrong, and I hope he does. Because that won't make me... Well, even if you're a naysayer, you're going to want him, Martavis Bryant that is, to prove you wrong about him. You know why? Because the Steelers benefit when he proves everybody wrong. The team as a whole benefits. You as a fan benefit by the team benefiting. It's a win for everybody. But I mean, it's not like the Steelers were just sleeping on this. They thought they were going to have Bryant last year. They thought they were going to have Marcus Wheaton last year. But now they go out, Wheaton's gone, and they bring in at least Justin Hunter, and they've got Darius Hayward-Bay and DeMarcus Ayers and Sammy Coates. Guy hurt his hand. What do you want? I mean, he had 5-6 receptions over 40-plus yards first 5 weeks up until he hurt that hand. And I think he still caught a pretty deep ball in that Jets game in the second half after busting up his fingers and whatnot. And then his snap counts just went, phew. Everybody knew he was just going to be a decoy, except for the Indianapolis Colts on Thanksgiving because they threw at him like twice, and everybody's like, oh, why didn't he catch the ball? He can't squeeze it, man. His hands are all messed up. I mean, but the Colts couldn't figure that out. It was stretching the field, and it allowed, Antonio Brown 2-3 touchdowns that night. He just smoked that secondary. So you see, even though it always reminds me, like I say, I've grown up around a lot of Browns fans. They brought in a very high-dollar wide receiver many, many moons ago. This was before they even moved, and it was a former Atlanta Falcons Pro Bowl guy, Andre Rison. Some may remember him. I think he had a little spell with the Green Bay Packers as well. And Andre Rison was signed for a lot of money, and they called him however many million. Let's just say he was $10 million. I don't know if it was that high back then. $10 million decoy is what they were calling him because the guy didn't catch any passes. He just ran in a straight line down the field, and it looked like he was opening it up for everybody else because everyone else was catching passes except for him. So that's the way I think. That's what I thought of Sammy Coates for the second half of the season. But the first half of the season, he was not a decoy. He was catching those balls, and he was making a huge difference. He had that little feed me more thing. You see Shazier do it. Almost looks like they're winding up. Hargrave, all these guys. Just feed them more, man. It's like they got that big soup spoon, and they're just shoveling it into that bowl. Feed them more. And that's what I think. This team is just overloaded. You're asking about a number 2 receiver. You're asking about if Le'Veon Bell goes back down again, if he gets hurt. James Conner, Niles Davis. I talk about when people say Martavius, it's Nile Davis. And I just it's like a cardinal sin to say it that way. Sorry, Nile. But they have the running backs now in place. Worst case situation, or at least give Bell a breather. I mean, he is a workhorse. He is truly tremendous. So we saw what happened. Fitzgerald Toussaint, Jordan Todman were the guys they were handing the rock off to. So just think about this. The things that we're complaining about. Zone coverage, number 2 receivers, other running backs, getting after the quarterback. These are all things, valid questions, but these are things hopefully you have with a 100% healthy team throughout the season, not major injuries, that they could go further. But right now, best laid plans, all these questions are answered. And that's what I mean by the weapons that the Steelers have armed themselves with to try and beat the New England Patriots. I believe that they have it, and I hope I've certainly changed at least one thought out there or someone's mind, or at least giving you a different perspective. Like I said, you don't always have to agree with me. I like when you always agree with me, but you don't have to. That's not a prerequisite to listening to this show or commenting on YouTube or commenting on the website, social media, etc., as much as myself and the rest of the team here at SCU tries to pick up some of the slack. We really appreciate trying to keep up with everybody. It's truly tremendous. We thank you for listening. We thank you for checking out all of our stuff. And if you have a chance, like Nate said, leave a review. iTunes, it's very complicated to do. Trust me. Just do a little Google search for it. I may post something else about it here in the near future, but truly appreciate it. Always love our fans, especially when they're Steelers fans. So, folks, even though the hockey goggles are on right now, the playoff beard's growing in, I'm still talking Steelers. I wish I could talk more for you, but there's only so much we could cover in the offseason. So we're going to at least try and get 2 of these out per week, if not more. If there's some major breaking news, we're going to talk about it. But until that happens, be safe, be good, and we'll definitely catch you later.
We would like to thank you for listening and remind our listeners to follow us on social media and our website, www.steelcityunderground.com.